KTN News Center, but with the latest update of what we're getting, that is concerning the death of Archbishop Emeritus Ndingi Mwana Nzeki, who died early this morning. His death has been confirmed by His Eminence, the Cardinal John Njue, who said that he died this morning after a long illness. Remember that Ndingi Mwana Nzeki will also be remembered for risking his life to support victims of the tribal clashes in Rift Valley. And so during his death, you know, not many Kenyans will have that opportunity to view his body because of COVID-19. These are just some of the situations that the government has put in place. So this was Ndingi Mwana Nzeki. I'd like you to watch this story that is coming up next, but let's meet tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless. My name is Brenda Zeda Redido.
Fearless, sharp-witted, and deeply religious. Such are the words used to describe the late Archbishop Ndingi Mwana Nzeki by those who interacted with him. The clergyman who was adored by many for his ability to put his foot down and confront social injustices and moral decay in the society. His was a journey of many firsts that began on the 25th of December 1931 in Mwala, Machakos County. He was the first baptized Catholic in his family and the first ordained Catholic priest, bishop and archbishop from Ukambani. Ndingi Mwana Nzeki joined the church when the country was still under colonial rule, where even the church hierarchy was largely white. Racial tension between white priests and their black counterparts formed a part of his early experiences. It is then that his inability to stand in justice would manifest in his pronouncements against racial and condescending acts against black priests. 8 years later, Ndingi was appointed Bishop of Machakos, making him the first bishop in that region. Unexpectedly, Bishop Ndingi was transferred to Nakuru in 1971 to serve as bishop after shepherding Machakos for only 2 years. It is his 25-year service in Nakuru that would time and again see him hit the national headlines. Ndingi played a crucial yet insufficiently appreciated role in some of the momentous events in Kenya. In 1991, tribal clashes erupted in the Rift Valley region, pitting two tribes against each other and hundreds driven out of their homes. This happening at a time when no one spoke against the KANU hegemony, no one but Archbishop Ndingi Mwana Nzeki, who released strong statements condemning the killings and destruction of property, even going as far as blaming the government for the clashes. In 1996, he was appointed co-adjudicator Archbishop of Nairobi before succeeding Cardinal Maurice Michael Otunga in 1997 as the Archbishop of the Catholic Church in Kenya. The late Archbishop will be remembered for his hard stance when it came to issues of reproductive health. He more than once maintained the Church's stand that abortion should never be legalized, vowing to mobilize the faithful to vote out politicians who supported abortion. He loathed the idea of abortion just as much as he did contraception. His anti-condom statements still fresh in the minds of many. And it did not stop at contraception. Archbishop Ndingi also took issue with the idea of same-sex marriages, which he strongly condemned.
Gay marriages, Catholic churches out.
During the same time, debate on whether Catholic priests should be allowed to marry raged on at a time when a number of priests went against the rule of sanctity. Ndingi would, however, hear none of it.
A celibacy for priests remains. Problems don't mean we must abolish what we have held sacrosanct for so many centuries. One of our strengths in our work is the freedom we experience because we don't have our own personal families to take care of.
The Catholic Church, led by Archbishop Ndingi Mwana Nzeki, was also on the forefront condemning the infamous shoot-to-kill order against the outlawed Mungiki sect in the year 2007 by the then Internal Security Minister, the late John Mishuki.
I do not agree with that policy, shoot to kill. We must respect life. The only time that might be used if there is a danger, the person going to shoot you. But even in that instance, you don't go to shoot to kill. You go to, what do you call it? What the word to use? Yes, disable the person.
Archbishop Ndingi Mwana Nzeki retired in 2007 after serving 10 years as the head of the Catholic Church. Towards the end of his stay on earth, the 85-year-old former archbishop was diagnosed with dementia, which means his mental ability declined as a result of the gradual death of brain cells. His mind was unable to retain what happened in the immediate, but could recall vividly conversations and sermons from decades back. Akisa Owandera, KTN News.
That is a profile of the late Archbishop Emeritus Ndingi Mwana Nzeki, who died this morning. His death has been confirmed by Cardinal John Njue, and it is a developing story right there. I'll continue giving you more details. But remember, the burial of the Archbishop will be a private ceremony, just trying to keep up with the measures that have been put in place by the government. So right now, I'd like to talk to a journalist, Martin Mutua. He would actually, interacted mostly with the late Archbishop Raphael Ndingi Mwana Nzeki, and he is one of the journalists, as I've told you earlier on, who closely interacted with him. Remember, Archbishop Ndingi Mwana Nzeki will be remembered as a man who fought for unity, a man who fought for the rights of people, and especially when it came to risking his life to support victims of the tribal clashes in a Rift Valley region. His death also comes, just months after, August last year, 2019, when the retired Archbishop celebrated 50 years since his ordination. And so, the death of Archbishop Emeritus Raphael Ndingi Mwana Nzeki also, is such a sad moment, not only for the Catholic, faithful, but also Kenyans at large, who interacted with him very closely. And let's now engage a journalist, that is Mutua. Martin Mutua is joining us via way of phone. Martin Mutua, good morning, and thank you so much for talking to us here on KTN News Center. Such a somber mood for the country, even as Kenyans are still grappling with the COVID-19. What will you remember, the late Archbishop for?
Thanks, Brenda, for this call. Actually, a lot of journalists have been calling me because they've known that I have been very close to the late Archbishop Ndingi. And for sure, everybody, I do not need to belabor on what Archbishop Emeritus did for this country. Everything is on record. You know very well what he did in Nakuru, what he did here in Nairobi. He had done a lot of stuff, and he really engaged in many issues to do with social justice, especially. So that is where most people, even non-Catholics, remember Archbishop Ndingi.
All right, and some time back, Mutua, he was in the limelight when you posed the kind of government directive that forced voters to, queue on the lineup behind the candidate. And people looked at him like whether he was okay when he was making that statement.
Well, he was just doing his job as a shepherd, because that's what all shepherds, because they are supposed to be the one leading the people. So when there are instances of social injustice, that is the key word that all bishops and even priests are required to do. They have to point out to the authorities what is wrong and what is right. So there is nothing absurd in what he did. I think he was just pointing out an issue that was affecting his people. And that is exactly what all religious leaders are expected to do.
All right, Mutua, let's talk about, the way he risked his life to support victims of the tribal clashes in Rift Valley back then.
Yes, that was the key thing that people actually remember Archbishop Ndingi with, but though he did many other things even when he came to Nairobi. But it was important for him to be able to stand with the people at that time, because a lot of people were getting oppressed, a lot of people were getting hurt, a lot of people were getting killed, and there was no way he could stand and watch while his people were being killed. And that's why he had to question the authorities. Why is this happening? And he needed to be bold. And that, if you remember, it is his statements that slowed down everything that was going on within the Rift Valley.
All right, Mutua, you've worked very closely with the late Archbishop, you know, just apart from working very closely, you interacted with your friends. So what will you miss, you know, the most about the late Archbishop?
By the way, the late Archbishop was a very humble man. He was very honest. He never liked to interact with people who would lie to him. If he realized that you are dishonest to him, you would never be close to him. The moment you are honest, he will always be with you. And the good thing about him is that he would always listen to you, whatever if you had a good advice to him, he would always take it. He'd never shy away from listening to people. What I remember, especially when he came to Nairobi, he opened his office door to anybody who would want to. Actually, on Wednesdays, he had instructed his people that it was a day for anybody who wanted to see him. You just need to walk in, no appointment, nothing, and you talk to him. And I think many people and many priests in Nairobi got very worried because they thought this had never happened, because no bishop would just walk out, open his door to the people to listen to the issues of the people. And they attribute even his illness to this kind of process, whereby he just listened to everybody and he would leave there very tired and go home. So those are the kind of things that he did. And basically, he also was very close to his priests. If you ask them, there are a lot of priests who found a lot of changes in him. He would 1 minute admonish you, but the next minute, if you are really right, he would come and apologize and things will go on. That is never the way leaders operate, even in this country.
All right, Mutua, it looks like he was such a transparent man. But then let's talk about, you know, what we expect during his time of mourning, probably what some of the Catholic rituals that we expect to happen. Because, you know, his death also comes at a time when Kenyans are keeping a distance, the government talking about less people doing a burial ceremony.
Well, I think with this time, it's very unfortunate that I think we will not be able to mourn Archbishop Ndingi the way we would have wanted to mourn him. I'm sure the issue of large gatherings would not be something that would be permitted. But you know why? Because we are trying to control and cut transmission of this coronavirus in the country. So the issue of a big gathering, that is something the church will need to reconsider. But I can't speak for the church because they will sure be giving us guidelines on how we're going to go on about this. But I'm sure in conjunction with the government, this is something that will be planned out. But Ndingi is somebody whom I'm sure many Kenyans would love to mourn him in the way he's supposed to be mourned, a hero who lived in this country. But with these times, there will be challenges, and I think Kenyans will have to bear with it.
All right, thank you so much, journalist. That is Martin Mutua talking to us about, you know, his interaction with the late Archbishop. But then now, let's also speak to Caleb Atemi, another journalist who interacted very closely with the late Archbishop. Caleb Atemi, good morning. And it is such a somber mood in the country as we speak because of the death of Ndingi Mwana Nzeki.
Good morning, my dear.
So, Atemi, you interacted very closely with the late Archbishop. Talk to us about it.
I worked closely with him for very many years during the days of the Moi regime. And it is sad that he has passed on during these corona times, because he's a man that many Kenyans from all faiths would have loved to mourn, and mourn well. Ndingi to me was a legend. He has died a legend. He's among the clergy that kept the government on its toes. He was in the group of the late Archbishop Mugi and Okulu and Manasseh Kuria, men of of the cloth that made sure the government did not go into excesses. I remember those days of the early ethnic violence in 1990, 91, 92. I would go to his office with teams of foreign journalists just for him to talk to us about the government excesses, to issue stern statements that would tell the government to step back and take care of his people and not kill or harass them. He had a technique of talking. He was soft but hard at the same time. He wouldn't shout or use expletives, but his point was made and he was highly respected.
All right, and even during his time of illness, issues of national issues are so dear to his heart. And I know this is the time when even, as political leaders will be mourning Ndingi Mwana and Nzeki, they'll be asking Kenyans, to treasure his good times in terms of human rights when it comes to fighting for the rights of Kenyans, and also to, live a life of legacy, try to live the life of legacy of the late Archbishop. So how can this be done practically, during this time as the country is also facing such a hard time, the COVID-19?
First and foremost, very few politicians stayed in touch with him during his time of illness. I think it's sad that our politicians will only remember you when you appear useful to them physically. But that said, I think now things that might have to be done virtually, because we cannot mourn Ndingi the way we mourned Daniel Moi, because of the social distancing rules that we must follow. But still, we are in a virtual world. I believe politicians and the leadership led by Uhuru should mobilize Kenyans to mourn him. We can mourn him online. We can mourn him on television. People will mourn him in different ways, and I'm sure we'll still give him a decent burial.
And, during your tenure as when you're working within the newsroom, I'm sure you've talked about interacting with him. You had written stories about him. So he's a man that, I talked to Mutua earlier on before speaking to you, was saying that he's a man who opened his door to everyone, not discriminating. So what will you remember, the late Archbishop for?
Exactly what Mutua said. People of all faiths would actually visit the Archbishop. It didn't have to be a Catholic to be his friend or for him to listen to you. And I think people who will miss him most are those who are displaced by ethnic violence, because he would personally pay them visits, he would offer them his hand, and he had a very warm and big heart. For the media people, wherever we went to see him, there was always a cup of tea and long conversations. And he was a man who would crack jokes, and he had his own sense of humor.
All right. Caleb Atemi, thank you so much. A journalist talking to us about also, his interaction with the late Archbishop Ndingi Mwana Nzeki, who died Tuesday morning, early this morning, and his death has just been confirmed by the eminence John Cardinal Njue. We will be expecting, more updates about his burial plans, because this also has to be done, according to the government rules that have been put in place because of COVID-19. No gathering and burial ceremonies, this to be limited to a small number of people. So it is such a trying time, especially for Kenyans and those people that he closely touched their hearts, and Catholic faithfuls would have loved, to view his body, but they cannot. Not everyone will be allowed because of COVID-19. Now, let me wrap up KTN News Center, but tomorrow, let's have a date, same time, same place. My name is Brenda Zedarajido. Up next, Cecilia Kesho-Madhuva with Leo Mashinani. Enjoy the rest of your viewing, but remember to keep safe. Wash your hands with clean water and soap. Use hand sanitizer in case you don't have, in case you're not near a place where, you can wash your hands. And